Hi and welcome to another video in my Learning Photoshop series. Now, one of my friends on Facebook called Gareth asked me last week if I could make an authentic looking ripple effect. Well, I tried out just a couple of basic filters, but I wasn't thrilled with the results. So I dug a bit deeper and I found a tutorial on photostar.com which I think does a pretty good job. So how does it work? Well, let's get started. I'm going to start with this image I've got here of Konigsberg Castle, and I'm going to try and make it look as though it's reflected in a pool of water, and we'll hopefully get it looking like this, which I think's a pretty good job. Okay, now this image is quite big, and some of the effects that we're going to use, they are resolution dependent. So if you do them on really high resolution images, they don't give you such a good effect. So I'm just going to drop this image size down a little bit. I'll go down to image and image size, and I'll drop it down to about 2000 pixels and then click OK. Now I want to create the reflection, so what I need is a copy of this. So I need to put that onto a new layer. So I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl and J to jump that onto a new layer, and I'll rename the layer reflection. Now I've got my two images, but they're behind, one's behind the other, so I can't see. So what I really need to do is to extend the canvas, is make the canvas a bit bigger to give it a bit of room to move into. So I'm going to do that next. I'm going to go to image and canvas size. Let's work in percent, and we'll say we'll leave the width to 100. And we'll have the height to 200, and this will put me some extra canvas at the bottom. I'll tell it that we just want to put it at the bottom, and we'll leave canvas extension color set to other, and we'll click OK. And if you look in the layers panel now, we've got some extended canvas and we've got some transparency underneath the one at the top. If I just close that down, you'll see we've got some transparency underneath it. Okay, next I need to flip this top one because this is going to be my reflection. So I'm going to do that with transform. So I'm just going to press Ctrl and T, keyboard shortcut. I'm going to move my mouse inside the transform. I'm going to right click and I'm going to flip that vertical. And we can see now that it's starting to look like my reflection. I'm going to get my move tool and I'm going to drag that down, holding the shift key down so I get it dragging exactly right, and then just meet it up, something like that. So you can see at the moment we've got what looks like a reasonable reflection, but it's just like glass, it's just a mirror. We want some ripples in it. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to create these ripples in a new document. So I'm going to go to File and New. I'll bring that in for you. And I'm going to create a document that's 4000 pixels by 4000 pixels, 72 pixels an inch. Leave everything else set to defaults and click OK. And I've now got a square new document. And I'm going to start off by adding some noise to this document. So I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. We'll put in something like 70% of the amount. We'll select Gaussian and we'll select monochromatic because we just want black and white noise. And then we'll click OK. Now to create these ripples, I really need some bigger lumps. Here I've got some little dots of noise. So a little trick is if we blur the noise, what it'll do is it'll clump some of those together to form bigger clumps. So I'm going to go to Filter and Blur and Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to put about 4 to 5 pixels in and click OK. What that'll do, that'll just blur a lot of the smaller pieces together. Next I want to add some contrast to make some of these darker areas really black and the lighter areas really light. I'm going to do that with an adjustment. We'll try curves. do here, I'll make a really radical adjustment. I'll pull that curve right over there and pull this white one right over there till we've got something looks a little bit like confetti, I suppose. I'll just show you what it looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then I'll click OK. Next I'm going to run a filter on it. I'm going to go up to the filter menu and I'm going to choose filter gallery. Now I know this is full screen now, so I'm going to drag this bit down so you can see it on your screen. There we go. And I'm going to go in the sketch area and I'm going to select the filter bas relief. And I'm going to set the detail to 2 and the smoothness to 2. And you can see what effect it's having. It's looking a little bit watery as it is, a little bit lumpy. But believe me, it's going to look like water when we're finished. And when I've done that, I'm going to click OK. Now I'd like to soften it a little bit and give it a little bit of sideways motion. So I'm going to add a motion blur. So we're going to go to filter and blur and motion blur. And I'll make sure that this is set to horizontal by typing a 0 in degrees. And we'll have probably something around 40 pixels as a distance, and then I'll click OK, and you can see there it's stretched it out again and it's making it look a little bit more ripply as we go along. Right now I need to get this ripple effect into our original composition, so I'm going to do that by selecting my move tool and I'm going to click and drag and then drop it. There we go. So we've now got that layer of this ripple effect on top of both our other layers underneath. Now I need to transform it because I don't need it over the top half of the image, I just need it where the reflection is. So I'm going to go into transform, Control and T, and I'm going to transform it down. Now I can't quite see it because I've got this really squished on my screen, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see where it is. I'm just going to put it in the middle and then drag that down till I get it just over the join where these two images meet. There we go. And I'll zoom out a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do now is stretch the perspective at the front to give that look that we're actually there's a little bit of distance between us and where the castle is. So I'm going to do that by increasing the perspective. So I'm going to hold the Control key down and I'm going to drag out this right out to that side and then drag it right out there to that side. Just drop that down a little bit so it's there. Okay, that's looking good. You can see that it's looking a little bit more watery now, and it's looking as though we've got a little bit of perspective, that the waves are not all equal. They start bigger and then as they go further away they become a little bit less distinct, which is what I want. So I'm going to double click to accept that. Now on this layer 1 here, where we can see the texture, this texture actually goes out, where it goes out right over this side and right over that side. So this image size is going to be quite large now and we don't need that. So I'm going to try and cut that off by using this reflection layer as a little bit of a template. So I'm going to hold the Control key down and click, and that puts me a selection round the actual area of the reflection. But what I need to do now is duplicate that selection. But I need to duplicate the selection on this layer 1. So I need layer 1 to be active, but the selection I've selected here is from the reflection layer. And if I now do Control and J, what I'll do is I'll jump that to a new layer. But now I've like cut it to the right size. So I'm going to rename this one texture. And then I can throw this one away. I don't need that one. That one away. Okay. We're cooking with gas. Right, now I need this texture layer now, and I need to create a new document out of it because I need to do something with it. So I'm going to right click on this layer and choose duplicate layer. And in the duplicate layer box, I'm going to choose new, and what this will do is it'll make a completely new document out of it, and I'll call it, well, we'll call it waves, and click OK. So you can see now I've got now a waves document, but this document's got quite a lot of transparency above it, which I don't need, so I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to do that by going to Image and Trim, and then I'll select Transparent Pixels, and that'll trim it right down to exactly the size I need. And then I'm going to save that out onto the, I'll probably save it onto the desktop, so I'll do File, Save As, go onto my desktop, and I'll save it out as waves and as a PSD file, and I'll click Save. OK, that's done. And now I can close this waves file because I don't need it now. Now we're going to go back to our original document, and I'm going to turn off this texture layer because we'll be using that later. And I now need to target my reflection layer by just clicking on it. And what I'm going to do is now turn this into a smart object, because I'm going to apply a filter to it that I may need to edit. So I'm going to right click, I know you can't see it, but there is Convert to Smart Object in the menu. You can see that's been done because I've got that little symbol in the corner. Now with that layer targeted, I'm going to go to my filter gallery. I'm going to go again to Filter and Filter Gallery, and it takes up the whole screen, so I'll just try and drag the bit into, hopefully you can see that. And then from the Distort set of filters, I'm going to choose Glass. And if you can see this little bit, you can see it's starting to look something like. And I can play with the distortion and smoothness. I think I'll leave them set where they are at about 6 and 3. But now what I can do is I can add in that texture that we created earlier that we called waves. I can do this by clicking on this little load in button here, and I can load texture. So I'll now go on to my desktop, where I should find it down at the bottom, and it's called waves, and then we'll click open. Now you can see the effect is even better now. We've got even more of a waves effect. So I'm going to click OK to that. Now let's just zoom that up a bit and see what it looks like. I think that's looking quite good. Now water has a little bit of a certain reflective quality, and our reflection here I think lacks a little bit of this. So remember this texture layer that we set out and made invisible? Well, we're going to bring that back. So we're going to click on the texture layer, and we're going to change its blend mode to soft light, and that gives us a little bit more of these ripples in the foreground. It's a bit too much, so I'm going to take the opacity down on that, probably quite low, to maybe something like 15%, something like that. And I think our work here is done. I'll just zoom out a little bit on that. We've got a little bit of an issue at the bottom. We could probably just finish that off with a crop, just to crop that little bit out at the bottom. I'll zoom it back in again for you. And I don't think that looks bad. I think that's pretty realistic. I think if Knaresborough Council found out that this image was about, they'd think they'd had a water leak. So there we have it. How to make a pretty realistic water reflection using a few filters from the filter gallery. I hope you found that useful. If you did, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the future episodes. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.